So fires are breaking out all over the United Kingdom in key locations. But of course, it's just coincidence. It's nothing to worry about. And whatever you hear, it's not sabotage. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about that today. And before we get into the video, guys, can you please hit those buttons below, the like, the follow, the subscribe, and all those things that help this channel grow. So last year, I did a top 10 video and I talked about the likelihood of sabotage coming to the United Kingdom. And let me just get off the bat, ladies and gentlemen. I personally do think that these are acts of sabotage, although the actual definition of sabotage, we may have to have a new definition for what's happening. But I did a video, I think it was like June or something last year, and I gave the top 10 targets. And I said, look, the infrastructure in the United Kingdom is ridiculously vulnerable to these types of attack. Everybody, and I'm talking about everybody now in the United Kingdom, knows where a substation is. They're not hard to find. You literally follow those power lines that are in the sky, and then eventually you'll come to a substation. Now, just because of the way that the country is set up, normally people don't burn down their own substations because then they'll be without power. And although nobody really wants to pay for energy and the energy companies are absolutely fleecing people, you kind of need that energy to run your fridges, your home, everything basically runs on electricity. So normally these substations have not been subject to any attacks, but things are changing. Why are they changing? Well, we're heading to a global conflict of an industrial scale. We have masses and masses and masses and masses of uncontrolled immigration, and those people don't really care about our country, I would speculate. They don't really care about our culture, and they're not really bothered about anything, only themselves. Now, and why do I say that? Well, let's think about it, guys. If you're fleeing a war-torn country and you leave women and children and you leave your family behind, that kind of says that you don't care about your family, and that would mean by definition you only care about yourself. Anyway, we're not getting into that, guys. What we are getting into today is the fires that have broken out all over the United Kingdom. So wherever you live, guys, wherever you live, you will know where a substation is. You will be able to walk up to that substation. If you can walk up to that substation, that means you can walk up to it with a ladder. If you can walk up to it with a ladder, that means you can make access to that substation. Now, you can pile up wood, broken pallets, settees, whatever. Everybody has access to these things. I mean, in Birmingham, you have access to a lot more of them. But you can basically stack these things up against a critical component in a substation, set fire to it, go, and that is pretty much a cut and shut deal. That substation will go down and it's going to have big effects. Now, we've got the substation that broke out in West London. I think that was like last week or something. We've got no explanation for. We've also got the substation that burnt down and took down Heathrow Airport. If you remember that was like last month. We've also got the fire at Barrow, where BAE Systems do their, they've got a nuclear submarine site. Still, nothing's been like there's been nothing out there on mainstream media or any media saying what these fires were actually caused by. And then we've got the fires at the DHL depots last year. And, we said on this channel when these fires were going up, I was saying, right, okay, this to me sounds suspicious. So looking at these things that are happening, guys, we can start to put these things together now in a pattern. And from my last video now, the threat of armed attack to the United Kingdom, I think at some point we're going to start to see coordination with these things. And I've talked about the summer of carnage coming. I've talked about things happening, things reaching critical mass. And what happens is when you reach this critical mass, the bad guys that are paying for all this stuff to happen, they don't need to pay for it to happen anymore because people are just going out and doing this sort of stuff anyway. And that's what I mean by reaching a critical mass. That's what I mean about when the summer of carnage gets here. And I do believe it's going to come here this year, ladies and gentlemen. So fires have broken out everywhere. Okay. So what we can take from that is the likelihood of more fires is high. Hang on, I will go to this article here, guys, from the Guardian. I'll put all the links in the description. Romanian man arrested after DHL warehouse fire caused by suspected Russian device. Metropolitan Police say 38-year-old man held on arrival at Stansted Airport in connection with the 2024 Birmingham blaze. So there you see it again, guys, and I've done videos about this, about the threat from Eastern Europeans because of the potential communications links back to Russia. Now, how do we know this is happening? Well, we know this is happening because there was an article recently released, and it talked about Eastern Europeans that work in as hotel staff. There was a spy network linked back to Russians. Now, you're never going to send your best, like Yuri, I don't know, Bonsky or whatever his name is, or whatever Russian spies are called. You're never going to send your best agent because it takes time, it costs money. What you're going to do is you're going to recruit these people where you have freedom of movement, which would be in Eastern Europe. So in this instance, you've got this Bulgarian guy was it Bulgarian? I think Romanian, my mistake. You've got this Romanian guy. Now, I'm not saying that this is the case. What I'm saying is this is what I feel would be a likely method of operation. So you would find people who are working in the United Kingdom through friends or family who are in Romania. You would contact them. When they're in Romania, you would brief them. You would give them instructions. You would give them instructions. You would figure out what they want. You would potentially pay them in Romania, pay them cash, word of mouth, and then that is very hard to track. It's very hard to intercept. It's very hard to detect or deter anything that person's done. Because think about it. If those two guys have a verbal agreement in Romania and they've spoke face to face, there's no digital communication, there's no financial transfer. It's very difficult to try and defend against that. What is it? Detect, deter, defend. So this guy then in Romania, when he's home visiting his family or whatever, he travels back to the United Kingdom. Remember, there's no trace on this now. There's no trace on anything he's going to do. There's no links back to him and any networks. He comes back to the United Kingdom. He conducts his or her mission. That mission's then conducted. He set fire to the substation or whatever. His family are paid. His mum or dad sends him a text message saying, hey, Johnny, the cat has got out of the hospital well. And he knows that's a code word for, right, okay, we've been paid, move on to your next mission. And these things are very hard to disrupt. They're very hard to detect in the first place. And this is what I'm talking about, guys. Now, we have that many people coming over to the United Kingdom. We've reached a critical mass. I can only imagine the workload now of the security services, MI5, military intelligence branches, special branches in the police who are trying to deal with this. And these are real good guys. And all of the time we've got this political pomp and pageantry. Guys, listen, it is absolutely insane. So these fires that are breaking out, guys, I personally think they're sabotage. We've got, the one in West London. We've got the one that took down Heathrow Airport. We've got the fire at BAE Systems nuclear submarine site. And then we've got the fires at the DHL warehouses, and a Romanian man has been arrested. I think these are just going to get worse, guys. Everything burns, unfortunately. And we can see this method of operating now, guys, all right? Very hard to detect, very hard to deter, and very hard to defend. Anyway, guys, I'm going to back to grid, and I'll get you guys another video later.